Up on
the mic.
Get up on the mic like this.
This is not fucking NPR. I don't want you like whispering by the microphone. This is fucking hard-hitting music podcasting.
Welcome to Backtracking, the show where three old friends take a second listen to classic bands' influential albums, track by track. I am J. William Hall.
And I'm Dan Fiden. We'll be taking this journey together, providing context, both historical and personal, on some legendary bands. For this, our third season, it is Total Albumania. We have selected 15 of our favorite albums that we think deserve a good old-fashioned backtracking.
Backtracking is the greatest podcast. FJW Dan with this podcast every week. Backtracking is the greatest podcast. Getting ready for podcast action.
J. William Hall, we are here. This is an exciting week for me.
Yeah. Okay. I'm excited that you're excited.
Well, I have to say.
Well, I just want to make it clear. I want to make it clear.
Okay. Please.
This was my pick. One of my 5 picks. Overlooked albums. Great overlooked albums.
Yeah.
This album is by the band Felt. The album is called Forever Breathes the Lonely Word.
Yeah.
It's from 1986.
Yeah.
On the Creation Records label, which at this point was still in its young years.
Yeah. I have to say, the first band that we covered this season, Mind Science of the Mind, self-titled, I knew the record extremely well. The second band that we covered, Ozzy Osbourne's Blizzard of Oz, okay? I also, although it was not my pick, I know the album like the back of my hand, and so it was completely familiar. We move on to one of your picks, Felt. I had never even heard of the band. I never heard of Denim. I never heard of Lawrence. I never heard of Go-Kart Mozart or whatever the other stuff is. I never heard of any of it, and I feel like I've fallen into this deep pit full of lore and records and all of this shit that I need to sort out.
Yes, you've described it well. It's a deep pit of stuff, history, drama. This guy at the center of it all, Lawrence, is just this incredible character. You know?
Yeah.
He is like a living art project.
Yeah.
Really. Like, he devoted his life to his art, and that has dictated, everything about his life. I mean, he's got some other things going on too, but as a result, he sacrificed everything, like he sacrificed normality in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
And it's sort of awe-inspiring to see it continue to unfold, like on the larger scale.
Yeah.
But for the first half of his career, the band that he founded as a teenager is Felt.
Yeah.
And they had this now storied run of records in the 80s, 10 albums and 10 non-album singles over 10 years. That was the legendary
master plan, right?
Yeah, that was the master plan. So they say now. I have heard mixed things about, like, in interviews at the time, he's not exactly saying that, but it's kind of cool, like in retrospect, like, wow, they actually achieved that. And he was the central member of the band, the entire time. And there was sort of a rotating cast of people, but he had the tremendous luck of encountering not just one musical prodigy who kind of like, was the musical engineer that brought the band to life.
Yeah.
But when that relationship fell apart, he encounters another musical prodigy on a different instrument, but who also like helps him bring, this whole thing to life. So, I mean, that's a really broad, telling of the Felt story, which I'm sure we'll get deeper into as we backtrack.
We've got to get so much deeper into it. I almost don't know where to start with this one, but I have to say, this selection for you kind of like aesthetically is so on the money. It is so on the nose. This band has like everything that I know you to kind of like love, you know?
Yes.
And I want to talk about all of that stuff, but I have to say, I felt like I was completely immersed in like your aesthetic world this week. And it really was fascinating because I had no preconception. I knew nothing about it at all. And I just feel like, I've opened up this entire section of the internet that's not small, that's dedicated to this guy, basically. It's so interesting.
I think one of the interesting things about him as a public figure is that he is strictly a British public figure. In any sense, like completely unknown in the U.S. because as far as I know, I don't think Felt ever toured here. Many of their records were never officially released here.
Yeah.
And I think most of their records were never officially released here. And so it's since they broke up, that their legend has just kind of slowly, incrementally grown.
Yeah.
And so it feels like this real kind of homegrown kind of thing, and I was not introduced to them until I was an adult, like this is not like a band I loved as a teenager. This is a band I was unaware of until I was like 30.
Yeah.
And even then when I first heard them, I was kind of like, oh yeah, they kind of sound like this 80s band or that 80s band or whatever, kind of shelved it for like a decade. And then somehow rediscovered it and was like, wow, I love this band, and just got deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So, so Felt, I'm happy to introduce our listeners to this album if they've never heard it before. But yeah, the story of the band is kind of this, just kind of like this tragic, epic sort of tale that all happened, like sort of very under the radar. And part of the tragedy of the band is that the lead singer, Lawrence, is sort of obsessed with fame, and he wants to be, he very openly states how he wants to be famous.
Wait, hold on, JW.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, I just want to kind of set up the episode, and then we'll get into the history.
Oh, okay.
I
don't even know where we are at this point.
I have a lot of questions I want to ask about the history.
Okay.
But just to like get it out there, housekeeping. We don't really have much. There's just one housekeeping item that I wanted to bring up with you. I've been in the lab with the lab coats, working it out, looking at the data, and I realized something. Our side A episodes are always about an hour and a half, 2 hours long. Yeah. And our side B episodes are usually about an hour.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so here's what we're going to do from here on out. We are not going to cover the cover until the side B episode. So we're not going to talk about the cover. We're going to keep that in because Michael pays the Patreon for us to do that specifically.
Right. Well, I'm glad we're still covering it. I was worried you were saying we were canceling that section.
No. And we can't. I mean, if we're going to go deep, we got to cover the cover.
Michael would be furious if we canceled it.
Yeah. But we're going to do that right at the beginning of the side B episode. So that's really it. That's all that we're going to cover for right now. But let's get into Felt. Let's get into the basics. So I listened to this. Forever Breathes the Lonely World is broadly available on the streaming services, which is one thing that's
the lonely word, not lonely world. First of all, listen, noob. Listen, Felt noob.
um, but you can find it, which I was surprised about. It's everywhere basically. So it's easy to find. I just listen to it on Apple Music most of the time. There is a remastered version and like an original version. I listen to the remastered version.
Yeah, why not? Why not? You know, because they're remastering things now to sound better on streaming services. Like that's the whole point.
What do they think of next? You know what I mean?
You might as well listen to the remastered if you want to hear it in the best fidelity. Now, if you're concerned, and sometimes you are. Sometimes you like an earlier edit. Sometimes you like an earlier mix. You prefer the muddier sound or whatever. You know, you do you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, all right. So we listened to it on the streaming services. This album was released. The closest I could get to a date was September 1986.
Yeah, I think that's about correct. Yeah.
Okay. And as you said, Creation Records. So before we go any further, I want you to give me a little bit of a backgrounder on Creation Records, on the significance of Creation Records.
Yeah, Creation Records became like one of the important British labels in the 90s. In the 80s, they were this like scrappy kind of underdog, you know, pull yourself up working class kind of indie label.
Yeah.
And
in Birmingham?
Birmingham.
Yeah.
It was like Peaky Blinders, you know. It was like they had like the razors and the hats and you know. Yeah. But I my sense is that, you know, Birmingham, if I do the, you know, not Birmingham, Alabama. Anyway,
in Birmingham, of course, last week we covered Ozzy, famous Birmingham dentist.
Oh, well, here maybe you guys talked about the city. You know, the reputation is it's gritty, blue collar, you know, working class factories. Like
it's like the Buffalo of England.
Yeah, or any Rust Belt. It's like a Rust Belt city.
Yeah.
You know, so it is kind of like a tough place, you know?
Yeah. Okay, so then the head of that label, am I mistaken in saying, is that Alan McGee?
Yes, he's an infamous character. He has, what was a movie? I know they made a movie that was like a fictionalized
24-hour Party People, right?
I think is it or I can't remember if that's the one or if that's about a different label. Like
it could be.
You know,
that could be about the like the Happy Mondays kind of.
Yeah, that was like Manchester.
Is that the same scene? Anyway, I don't. Yeah, Manchester.
No, I think that's different. I think that's about Factory. Is that about Factory?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's right.
All right. So right. you know these very British labels where they have these very like British urban. Yeah. Kind of like stories of how they came together and whatever. And Alan McGee, I know he is a musician as well. Like I think he started out in bands.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he got into doing his label or whatever. But Felt was early signing. Yeah. Like before Creation was any kind of powerhouse, because they almost go bankrupt. That's actually part of the Felt story later on.
Yeah. But Creation went on to sign Oasis.
Yes. So in the 90s, they're like the comeback story. Like they end up, signing Oasis and that turns into just everything, and so they became huge. Yeah. And so now they're really associated more with like Britpop and I think that era. Yeah. When they were in their imperial phase, Yeah. So Felt was when they were still in their like scrappy underdog, kind of barely hanging on phase.
But, it's one of the things that we're going to talk about undoubtedly, but I didn't realize until I read a bunch about how so many people attribute basically the invention of like what later became Britpop to Felt and to Lawrence. Yeah. Like he's viewed as like a super seminal kind of visionary of what ended up being that entire scene in the 90s.
Yeah, he is, and I think that is accurate, but that is especially true of like Felt's final album.
Yeah, okay.
Like that, me and a Monkey on the Moon. that album, you can really hear that influence, like the whole style of playing and kind of like he had sort of perfected, I don't know, like just his whole style by that point. And, you know, so I think that was definitely hinting Britpop was right around the corner, and he was poised to ride that wave a little bit, or catch part of it at least, when he started his next project, Denim, which is much more pop forward. Yeah. Like he was going for that big hit, you know, but he was still writing classics. Like, I mean, you know, his lyrical style is very distinct, you know, and some people kind of lump him in with like a Morrissey, you know, and there is some of that archness to his, you know, some of his song titles and stuff, but the deeper you get into it, like the more he kind of separates, you know, I think like into kind of his own sort of character and his own style. And it definitely evolves, you know, from like early Felt, you know, into Denim. And I don't know if you checked out any Denim or Go-Kart Mozart.
I haven't. I'm telling you, there's
I mean, it's much. Like, well, it's stylistically like 180 degrees from Felt.
I barely had the opportunity to listen to other Felt records because, well, I'll get into it, but it took me a lot of listens to appreciate this album. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, you texted me after your first listen. You said, oh, what did you say? You said it sounds like Lou Reed
fronting Belle and Sebastian.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
which was perfect in retrospect. And I'll explain, you know, because Lawrence admittedly was most heavily influenced by Lou Reed. Like he has said this in interviews. Belle and Sebastian, admittedly, Stuart Murdoch is most influenced by Lawrence. Yeah. So like for you to say that as your first impression, it's like, and I consider this album that we're going to get deeper into, Backtrack, to be the perfect middle ground album in Felt's catalog, both chronologically, you know, and stylistically. Like this is where it all, you know, coalesced into a vision.
All right, so before we start to get into this like subjective impression of it and all the influences and everything, which is really a lot of what I wanted to talk about with you, give me a rundown of the members of the band and kind of the history of the band, because you talked a little bit already about Lawrence kind of trading one virtuoso for another. So let's like get into who is on this record.
Okay, so hold on. Let me get ready here.
Yeah, okay.
All right. So Lawrence, the first Felt release was a single that he put out. He recorded with just like a Radio Shack kind of like tape recorder. Yeah. In his bedroom in 1978. Super rough lo-fi, like he could barely play.
But he plays guitar consistently.
He plays guitar, but at that point it was, you know, really rough, rudimentary, like guitars out of tune kind of thing. Yeah. And but it was so rough and lo-fi that like somehow it wound up being the single of the week for this one like British weekly newspaper. And so that was enough to kind of encourage him like, okay, I should get a band together. Yeah. And so he knew this kid at school, Morris Deebank, who he wasn't really friends with, but, you know, Deebank palled around with another kid and they came over to Lawrence's house to like listen to a record or something. And he came in and noticed an acoustic guitar sitting there. So he picked it up and like, you know, tuned it all up real quick. And then he played 3 chords for, Mr. Tambourine Man. Yeah. And Lawrence was like, oh my God, like this kid is like a genius, you know, and was like freaking out at how good he was. And so he just badgered him and got him to kind of like, you know, come and play with him a little bit. Yeah. And, you know, and he has said like, you know, so Morris Deebank was like a classically trained kind of virtuoso, like a child prodigy on the guitar, and he's been open about saying that he's an autistic person. And so, to some extent,
Lawrence is or Morris
is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So to the extent that informs his personality, I think it matters for their story because it's sort of this tale of they were on again, off again through 4 albums, he kept leaving the band, Morris kept leaving the band, and then Lawrence and whoever the bandmates were would eventually go back to him and beg him to come back. And he would come back, but he seemed half-hearted about it, and he just wasn't into it,
Yeah.
And so Lawrence got resentful because he felt like he had to, wrench everything out of him. And Morris got resentful, as did some other bandmates, because Lawrence was very controlling about their image.
Yeah.
He was obsessed with the aesthetics.
Yeah.
Like his vision for Felt wasn't just about the music, it was about the whole aesthetic of Felt. So how they looked, how their albums looked, and so he was super controlling, and that's sort of I think, Will Hodgkinson, who we talked about the book that he's written about a year spent with Lawrence, said that, he feels like he exhibits OCD kind of stuff, and that seems evident in how meticulous he is about details of things. And, that come across as odd,
Can you describe what the look was of the band that Lawrence wanted? Because I actually haven't been able to find in my kind of searching around any pictures of the band as standing in a promo shot or on stage or anything.
There are a handful of them floating around, and it was this very wispy, gauzy. To understand it, you just look at the photo and look at Lawrence, and you can see, and it's very sort of kind of fey, kind of, for lack of a better word, a wimpy sort of,
Smithsy.
Yeah, a little bit. There was definitely that air of femininity about it.
Yeah.
Not with makeup and stuff like that, but the other guys in the band weren't those guys. They were working class dudes from the city, and so it was hard for them to adhere to Lawrence's vision, and Lawrence was constantly frustrated because
and he didn't want them to ever drink out on those and
no alcohol.
He didn't want them to have any do any interviews or anything for a while.
Yes, and he was just very and it sounded Lawrence is, he talks openly, and I encourage any listener to go find interviews with him because they're just kind of hilarious. And I mean, part of it is to American ears, his accent, comes across it has sort of a comic quality to it, but just his observations and the way he talks and lives, it's kind of fascinating. There's the Lawrence of Belgravia documentary on him, and
which I have not been able to. I haven't been able to watch. I couldn't find it on any streaming service. Apparently, you can buy it off of Amazon Prime Video, but I couldn't find anything other than a trailer on YouTube. I definitely want to watch it after kind of learning about the band, but I haven't been able to do it.
It was really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Where'd you get it?
I think on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
Not that I want to pitch them, but that was the only place I could find it. So I was fuck it, I'm gonna watch it. So
okay.
But it was worth it. It was it was an hour and a half or something like that.
Yeah.
But so, if you want to know more about him as a character, you get a deeper sense with the documentary.
All right, all right, the band, he puts together the band, they record some records. They embark on this kind of an album a year for 10-year journey. One of their early records, I think it was the second record, got a bit of, it was the closest to getting commercial traction from what I understand.
Not exactly. Like they came out of the
Okay.
gate with some acclaim, like on an indie level, you know.
Yeah.
And their sound was really good. It was really interesting. It's like, you know, some of it sounds like almost like proto slowcore, you know, like it's like, but you have this classical guitarist kind of like playing all of this intricate, you know, exacting stuff combined with this sort of like Velvet Underground-y, like Mo Tucker, because Lawrence didn't want any cymbals. We talked about this. We talked about this with Genesis, and yes, I told you, you know, this is what I was like. This was a thing at that era, and he was inspired or encouraged by Peter Gabriel doing that.
Really?
And yes, and the other thing was that the drummer was also, like Lawrence, was into Buddy Holly.
Okay.
And like Peggy Sue, it's just like a guy like banging on a tom, like just you know, the whole way through it. And so that was what the Felt drummer, like, it was like that's what he started with, you know. And
but like,
so anyway.
So like they made these records, but
Yeah.
I only listened to a little bit of some random songs off of the first few records.
Yeah.
And my impression was that the band really sounds fundamentally different on Forever Breathes the Lonely Word.
Well, yeah.
The earlier stuff sounds to me like a proto My Bloody Valentine. Like it really sounds kind of like shoegaze to me.
Yeah, there's definitely like, I mean, they were doing shoegazy things, you know, as early as anybody.
Yeah.
And you know, and you know, Morris Deebank was a super unique, talented guitarist. He influenced Johnny Marr. He was sort of in the, you know, some people compare him to this guy, Vinnie Riley, who was DeRudy Column, who came out of Manchester. Like just this sort of like classical combo with the, you know, just interesting playing, you know.
Yeah.
And so somehow that combined with these sort of like Lou Reed inspired kind of monotone-ish spoken sung vocals, this heavy atmosphere, you know, it was very atmospheric, you know. And
he's like, one thing, all right, so I want to like just I'm gonna interject some comments here.
do it
but a lot of my kind of impressions and things are generalized. He's not a great vocalist. He's not like he and generally I don't like singers like this. Like I'm not a huge I'm not a huge Lou Reed fan. I don't really, you know, God, like what's his name, the Australian guy, Nick Cave. You know what I mean? I appreciate it, but I don't like love that. You know what I mean? Bob Dylan even annoys me the way he sings, and I know that's a really trite thing to say, but it's just I tend to like a more traditional
it's
singer.
speak singing or scat singing or beat poet kind of, you know, rapping, singing kind of thing. Like it's not everybody's cup of tea for sure.
Yeah. But that is really him. I mean, so while I think this, you know, you had mentioned Johnny Marr, there is without a doubt this kind of, I think, influence one way or another, or mutual influence, because the bands are roughly contemporaneous, right?
Well, no, I mean, Felt kind of got going at least, at least a year, you know, before the Smiths got going. Because I think Felt really got going around 1980 with Deebank in the band as well. Yeah. And it was founded by the two of them as like a collaboration, and as a result, Felt unusually put these like instrumental pieces on their albums, like in between songs with Lawrence singing, you know. Yeah. But I mean, the other thing is that Lawrence was a poet. Like his lyrics are really interesting and poetic and sort of like visionary, and they somehow match up with this ethereal kind of guitar style just in a really interesting way. You know, it was kind of dumb luck, you know, that they found each other in that way.
Okay, so let's try and get us to the point where
so
the lineup changes.
Yeah. Okay, so they do have a couple of drummers. One is fired because he has curly hair.
Okay.
And but then, I think the drummer who is with them long term
Gary
Ainge, who is is a childhood friend of Lawrence's. So they've known each other forever. And eventually, and they do start adding like cymbals and a hi-hat and stuff to the kit.
Yeah.
So they get to their fourth album, which is Ignite the Seven Cannons. And Deebank has been in and out of the band several times. Like basically after every recording session, he would quit the band for a while. And he had a solo album that he put out that's just all instrumental guitar shit, which is great.
Yeah.
So he did that like in between being in and out of Felt, but then he would get back with the band and they would do another album and just, I think, toured around Europe a little bit.
Yeah.
But so for the fourth album, Ignite the Seven Cannons, which was 1985, they decide to add a keyboard player. Lawrence goes to the local like record store where the Birmingham folks put their help wanted kind of posters up.
Yeah.
And he puts up a sign that says something like, do you want to be a rock and roll star? And they're looking for a second guitarist. That's what they're looking for, which is completely, again, like that does not sound like something that Felt would be looking for. But the guy behind the counter sees it and is like, oh, hey, I don't know, but I know this kid and he's like a keyboard wizard and he's great and whatever. And so one thing leads to another and he meets Martin Duffy, who is a 16-year-old like keyboard prodigy. And he plays organs and synths and, he's just like a keyboard wizard and he's 16. He joins the band. And so for that one album, they've got both Deebank and this new kind of like teenage wizard on the keys. And it expands the sound a bit. And then they have their greatest triumph, which everybody agrees, the song that is like, if you have one Felt song, it's Primitive Painters, which is off of that album. Yeah. And so that went to, I guess, number one on the indie chart or whatever in the UK at the time.
Now, is that the one that has the woman from the Cocteau Twins?
Yes, Liz Fraser.
Yeah.
Because her husband at the time, who was the other guy in the Cocteau Twins, why am I blanking on his name? He owned the studio and he was the producer for that album. So he produced that track as well. But he like slathered so much reverb onto the tape directly. Yeah. This is according to Lawrence, that it was like he slathered it in reverb and like it was just buried, and Lawrence was furious, like he wasn't allowed to attend the mixing, and there was just all this drama around this album.
Yeah.
Anyways, this is their greatest triumph, and this is basically one of Deebank's guitar pieces that he brought to Lawrence and brought to the band and helped coached it all into building it up to this epic. Yeah. And Lawrence delivered on the vocal, beautiful, they've got Cocteau Twins energy to it, and huge hit. Deebank leaves the band. He's like, I'm out. he finally, whatever, Lawrence said that they recorded something and he announced to the band like, okay, the recording's done. Like, I just got married. I need to go and be with my wife. I'm not going to be in the band anymore. And they knew that was it. But good news, they've got this 16-year-old whiz kid on the keys who's ready to step up, who's chomping at the bit and has got all this young person energy and can just play anything, all different styles, like make shit up. And so that becomes a driving force for the band going forward. And it's like this album that we're going to cover is the album immediately. It's like, it's not the first thing out of the gate, because the first thing out of the gate is this strange album that is just like 10 instrumental pieces that are like all less than 3 minutes long. And that's their first release on their first release on Creation is a single called Ballad of the Band.
Yeah.
and I don't know if you got to hear this or listen
I didn't
to it
hear it, but I read about it a little.
So this was a non-album single, and it was their first release. They transitioned from their first label.
Cherry Red.
From Cherry Red. They transitioned from Cherry Red to Creation, and they released the single Ballad of the Band, and it's kind of well known now. It's a great song, of course, but the lyrics are very obviously directed by Lawrence to Deebank, and it's basically just him grousing about his bandmate.
Yeah.
And they used to rehearse it together, and he would sing it directly at him, and Deebank didn't know. He didn't understand, or he didn't sense that it was directed at him. He wasn't paying attention to the lyrics. And there's footage of the band at some point in this era. They got invited to go to Spain and perform and be on this like Spanish television show. And so on YouTube, you can find it. It's like this edited together piece about Felt, a little interview segment, and then they perform and Deebank's in the band at this point, and they play Ballad of the Band. Yeah. But evidently he didn't know until after he had left the band that it was about him, and it deeply, deeply, deeply hurt him. Yeah. And that has caused a rift, that has been difficult for them to bridge. And so this is part of like the tragic story, of Felt. It's like these guys have kind of fallen out over this, Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So,
but anyway, this is all setting the stage for this album.
We're at the cusp of this album, but now I want to pause for a second, and I want to talk about why this album really feels to me like it hits on so many elements of the J. William Hall aesthetic. Okay? Number one, it has this very kind of mid-'80s indie English thing. It is like very British. Yes. And I think that there's a part of your aesthetic that really loves bands of that era from that place.
For sure. And that is 100% attributable to this awesome radio station that existed in Pittsburgh during that formative period in my life, that mid-teenage period, WXXP. Yeah. And it was only around for a few years, but all of these bands were like reigning supreme on college rock and alternative radio. They didn't call it alternative radio at the time. Like it was just like, I think they called it progressive radio in Pittsburgh. And,
it is a decidedly Euro aesthetic that from that period of time that you were very into.
I've always been fascinated by, just overseas bands.
Yeah. Well, but I think British specifically.
Also, Australian.
All right. So
New Zealand. Basically the English-speaking world.
Yeah. Okay. So the aesthetic here that I'm talking about is the kind of like lone, isolated, misunderstood genius perhaps, but also just like definitely unsuccessful. You know what I mean? Like someone toiling away and it's a little bit of an outsider artist thing, but like the requirement is like no success. So, Jandek is like the number one here that I think of when
that is a great American sort of analog to Felt. Yeah. That's even more extreme, though. I've got to be honest.
Jandek, though, is one. But there were other, like, the more kind of mainstream ones from the 90s were like the Daniel Johnstons or like the Wesley Willises, these kind of oddball characters that, are making art.
Where like mental illness or drug abuse is very likely a significant part of the story, but it's not exactly clear, but that informs their genius, like.
But there's another one that you loved called Home that I remember you being really into. That was like a whole band.
I don't honestly, I don't know their whole backstory, so I only know, enough to speculate, but I would love to introduce you to a Home album sometime.
So like that is definitely like Lawrence hits that so squarely. He really is the intersection of those things.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think especially like, just coming from an American perspective, it adds this allure, to the whole thing that I can't think of the perfect American equivalent.
I mean, in some ways, I think American Music Club is not completely separate from this impetus.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is a similarity to just inopportune things happening to them, like throughout their career. That's sort of like whether they're self-inflicted or not. And there's a mix of both.
Yeah, well, it definitely seems like with Lawrence, there's a lot of discussion about like how self-inflicted is all of this with him.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously I don't know the man. I've just been mainlining Felt information for the last week, but no, it definitely seems like he's a genuinely eccentric dude. I mean, the thing that I think is it creates mixed feelings, is it's awe-inspiring. Like if you're a creative person, if you're an artistic person in any way and you admire artists, like Lawrence is pretty pure, like, I mean, he dedicated his life to his art and some of it is really great, but somehow like fame, recognition, any kind of money, any kind of like ability to live comfortably, like has eluded him. And this has been for his whole adult life. I mean, he's an older dude now. He's in his 60s.
I think the twist with Lawrence that's so interesting is that it seems as though it were a consistent desire for him to achieve stardom. Yeah. And that's different than like, with like Eitzel, I think one of the kind of annoying things is there are moments when it seems like he really wants that big mainstream rock stardom. Yeah. And then there are these other moments where he, for some reason, kind of shoots himself in the foot. Yeah. And then you've got like Jandek, who undeniably doesn't want it. I mean, goes through extensive hoops to avoid anyone finding out kind of who he is. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like Lawrence is like, at least in what he says frequently, he like wants it. He just somehow or another manages to dodge it.
Yeah, he's got conflicting impulses, like he openly admits he wants it and that he's tried to get it and he's tried to write these pop hits and he just can't understand like why hasn't it happened. And this has been his central kind of dilemma like his whole career. Like he is openly trying to create pop art, like popular art, especially after Felt. Like Felt was like a vision to him. Felt was like this image of this like idealized, heaven sent band. Yeah. And strangely musically they were kind of getting there. It's like you listen to Primitive Painters and it's like this heavenly is definitely a great word for it, and like I almost think of them as do you remember Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Yeah.
What is their band Wild Stallions?
The Wild Stallions, yeah.
And it's like when they go to the future or whatever, and it's like they're in this heavenly place, and the angels are all like, "Oh, Wild Stallions music like made it's like I feel like that's where Felt was getting to, you know, but Lawrence had all of these weird rules and these weird boundaries, and some of them included like we're not allowed to do an interview with this place because I don't like them, for some reason. And the reason might be something superficial, like, the letter here doesn't look right. I don't like the color of what, like things like that, like really genuinely bother him. He's very aesthetically oriented. Like everything has to be just so. And that included Felt's image. That included their artwork. That included their press photos, everything. But I mean, the rest of the band members were humans who had their own shit going on. And like, they could not adhere to these rules, but I think that he is loose. I mean, I think Lawrence has loosened up like as he's gone along. Like he's still very aesthetically oriented and it's very unique to him, but I think he has willing participants now, like I think in those early Felt days, those guys were not entirely willing participants, in his vision. And and that's a tough task. I mean, it's amazing that they were as productive as they were, given all of that. And I think also they were like childhood acquaintances, in that early version of the band. And you can't shake that shit, like when with your childhood friends, like as you get older, like you remain, your relationship and how you interact with each other it lags behind, your other adult relationships, And I think that when I read all the interviews and stuff about that era with them, it seems like there was a lot of that going on too, like just like picking on each other kind of thing, And so it's a shame, but this second version of the band where it's Lawrence and let me try to get us back on track.
Deebank is gone.
Deebank is gone.
They've recorded this record with the Cocteau Twins guy.
Yeah, with him, and they also switched their bass player for that record. And so their new bass player is just Marco Thomas is his name, and he's kind of just like elevated the bass playing. Yeah. So for that album with the Cocteau Twins guy, you've got Deebank, you've got the new bass player Marco Thomas, you've got Martin Duffy on keys.
Yeah.
And that band is gelling. Yeah. And Deebank leaves. And so they recruit a different guitar player for this next record.
Tony
Willie, who I tried to kind of dig into him a little bit, and I could not find many other credits to his name other than these Felt records, like in the latter era of the band. But I will say two things. One, his guitar playing is great on this fucking album. Like I know Lawrence does some of it too, and it's not always, clear who's doing what. But I think the guitar playing is great on this album. It evokes Deebank in places. And I don't know if that's intentional or not. I don't know if some of these songs were in development when Deebank was still in the band. Deebank, in the one interview that I found with him, basically said that Felt kind of retained some of his songwriting contributions or methods or something, like going forward.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much, of his DNA is in this album, but I think to the casual Felt listener, they don't miss him. I think the keyboard is definitely forward in the mix. I think Martin Duffy's playing sounds like Deebank at times, just like.
Well, it's a. All right, so I want to talk about the producer really quick, because there's something happens between that last record with the Cocteau Twins guy. You had said that it was soaked in reverb. If you listen to that, and I listened to it a little bit, it really sounds like a completely different band, in my opinion. Completely different band.
I mean, basically, Robin Guthrie put a Cocteau Twins production on Felt is what happened. And Lawrence had an awful time recording the album. It's very, sad and funny interview with him where he recounts his days recording that album.
But it's awash in reverb in the same way that a lot of that slowcore stuff kind of ended up being. And I think, honestly, like, if you think about the Verve's early records, totally, or like, Stone Rose, it's like, it's this kind of like,
I think a lot of bands go through a heavy reverb phase. You know,
Okay,
I just think it's true. But I mean, Lawrence, you know, he denounced the production. Like,
oh my God! But
afterwards.
he did more than that. He went out and chose a producer, John A. Rivers, who, from what I read, was known for doing very clean, very like literal productions.
Yeah. I mean, he was a pro. You know. And I'm trying to see,
but like known for like a real clean sound. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I had read. Now he over the years,
yes, and well, you know what he was really good at were guitar bands. He did Love and Rockets, which I wouldn't call a clean, you know, but
no.
I mean they had a lot of verb too, but really cool guitar band. Jazz Butcher, really cool guitar band, a lot of jangle, you know, like in that mid-'80s period. Hoodoo Gurus, who underrated Australian band that had, you know, it was just like garage rock influenced kind of guitar stuff. So
and Buzzcocks he worked with.
Yeah. So I mean, he had indie chops, he had a resume. I don't think he had an agenda as far from what I read going into it.
But I read
but his production definitely shines on this album. It makes felt shine, is what it does.
So Lawrence, from what I read, Lawrence selected him because he was specifically looking for a clean, non-dated sound, and he felt like a lot of the kind of really reverby stuff and the gated drums and all that were starting to become dated sounding in the 80s, which I think is probably true. But I just wanted to point that out because when I listened to this record, I couldn't believe how much different it sounded than the preceding record. And it, in some ways, sounded like a 60s throwback to me. And that's really where that Bell and Sebastian thing kind of like comes up.
It's the organ, you know, like that, putting the organ forward and making it the lead instrument on a lot of the album. It definitely puts it in that like 60s Hammond organ led, you know, Procol Harum, or I don't even know how you
13th
say
floor
their name.
Elevators. You know what I mean?
Psych,
there's like a,
you know, slightly like Psych, I don't know. You know, but Steve Winwood, like, you know, whatever he was involved with, like that Hammond organ sound, you know, it's earthy, it's soulful, you know, and you can make it jazzy, you know, like, but it evokes a certain nostalgia feeling, I think, you know, and I think nostalgia is like a big emotion on this album.
Well, like the thing, like I'm getting a little bit into my overall impressions now. Again, not knowing the band at all. But one of the things that I felt like was so interesting about this band, and this may sound like a backhanded compliment or something, but it was like when I listened to them, it was very clear to me what bands influenced them and what bands they influenced. You know what I mean? It felt like it was right on the nose. Like Luna, you hear all over this record. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you mean Luna being influenced by this band?
Yeah, that's what exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
So like the kind of like, you know, bands that were influenced by them, you really do hear a lot of Smiths in the way the guitars are recorded on this record and the way that they're played frequently. Bell and Sebastian there is this kind of 70s pop sensibility and a sound to it that I think is right there. And then like Luna. But then like the fact that like it's like television, yes. Velvet Underground, yes. Like it's all kind of like right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, I think sort of the cross-pollination early in the band was not strictly post-punk. It was also like that like proto-shoegaze.
Yeah.
You know, they were somewhat droney early on, like in an intentional way, you know, with just like a tom-tom.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like tribal drum beat like throughout a song and just like a jam where Deebank's just like riffing the whole time and, you know, one chord for a long time. Like, so that I think of that as like a proto shoegaze kind of thing, like they, they were an intersection of sounds, that all sound familiar, but they bring it together in a unique way.
But do you think that the proto shoegaze thing is like, I don't feel like this record has any of that.
No, this is, this is the beginning of the second half.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say this is the beginning, because they did release that album a few months before this one. On Creation, Let the Snakes Crinkle Their Heads to Death, which I think has since been retitled on reissue as the 17th Century, which is just like instrumentals. And I don't even know if Lawrence played on it. Like I feel like they had 2 albums in their second half that are just instrumentals that Duffy kind of does everything on, or not everything, but he took the lead on or whatever. And I think Lawrence just provided the song titles.
So like one thing we got to say about Martin Duffy, I think before we go, we're getting closer to the kind of track by track. Martin Duffy, joins Felt at 16, like you said, but he ends up going on to being one of the main members of Primal Scream, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where he probably becomes more famous as Primal Screams. But Primal Scream's one of those bands that's huge in Britain, but I do not hear about them over here. Like, so, but he's a very well respected player. He recognized he was a child prodigy. Like, kind of became a legendary keyboard player. Sadly, passed away
a few years ago,
3 or 4 years ago. But I know there were a lot of tributes to him at that time. He was in the Charlatans for a bit. They're another band that was, bigger in the UK than they were here. But this is a very British oriented sort of web of bands that we're talking about. Yeah. And so, for our British listeners, forgive us.
This is for the kids out
American
there. Like,
bullshit. Like,
this is like for the kids out there like Jay William, who in the 90s spent a lot of time in the import section of the record store.
Right. My knowledge of the UK was completely like a vision formed from all of these alternative guitar bands from the 80s. The one band that was on Creation after Felt, before Oasis, who were supposed to be the next big thing, and I almost picked one of their albums for this season, The House of Love. I was all over The House of Love, so anyway.
So you want to know one other band that, like, the deeper I got into this album, the more I felt like there was like Felt influenced them. I was not into these like British bands in the same way that you were. Like, I kind of know the Smiths and like some of the shoegaze stuff, right? Yeah. But like I wasn't deep into especially kind of the earlier 80s, really any of it. But there was this one band that was kind of a early 90s band called the Auteurs. Do you remember them?
Yeah, very very British band.
Super British, a little definitely a kind of a Britpop era band with similar aesthetics, but it felt to me a little more bookish and kind of musically intricate, I guess. But they reminded me of
Luke
this
Haynes.
A lot.
Yeah, Luke Haynes, who has gone on to have other projects and things. But yeah, they have a more bookish, literary kind of bent to them. There's also Pulp. They were sort of like the Britpop equivalent of, like, if you imagined Felt, kind of going to the next level or something, like in the 90s Britpop wave, or Denim or whatever. That Pulp had that similar kind of like attitude or something.
Yeah. It's so interesting. Like, when I think about all these bands, I do bucket all of them into this broad kind of like Britpop bucket, but it's tough for me to articulate what the things are that connect them, because I feel like Oasis is like a very different band than the Auteurs, for example, or Pulp.
Yeah, I mean, Oasis, I think, caught a bit of the heavy guitar from grunge, and kind kind of combined probably with some of the heavier kind of coming out of the Manchester stuff, like Stone Roses went heavy for their second album, and it just seemed like that was kind of like the next thing, like the grunge wave coming to England. They were kind of born out of that, plus more pop style songwriting, Rules, classic Kinks, like the Kinks kind of came back, and I mean, the UK has had their music history is not, it's weird where it has its own individual thing that the Americans know nothing about. And I think we have some things that they don't know about as much,
Like what?
That's a good question. Cause
country music is not really, or like, especially like,
I mean, I'm sure there
outlaw country.
Yeah. I'm sure there are country fans in the UK, but I don't know that there's like a scene there per se. Like I don't think a lot of successful Nashville style country comes out of the UK. I could be wrong. Don't come at me, country UK fans. So I know a lot of American pop culture gets crammed down the throats of people in the UK, so they know much more about us than we do about them. And I think like there's a whole lineage of bands and scenes that were very, very British, and there are few American examples that, were part of that scene. So, So anyway, all of that is to say Felt is like very, very British.
Yeah. And I will say that my other impressions really, there are moments of real brilliance in these lyrics. He is definitely kind of like needs to be understood more as a lyricist than I think a acrobatic singer, certainly. But another thing that struck me is the songs are really quite simple and short. Like almost all of the songs are kind of 3.5 minutes, and they almost all of them kind of have like, A, B, A, B, C, A, B structure. You know what I mean?
I mean they
verse,
they
chorus,
do some
verse,
funky
chorus, something, verse, chorus.
Yeah, basically there are very recognizable verses, very recognizable choruses, bridges. They do some funky things with just switching it up and tempos, and it's a limited palette, but that really served them well on this album because they sound coherent, like as a group. I think some of those earlier albums, I mean, Ignite the Seven Cannons has got the Robin Guthrie sound all over it. So that's what unites it, you know, but when you have these solo instrumental guitar pieces, semi-classical up against like a 6-minute dirge, I don't know. Like, I think some of the albums were not disjointed per se, but like the songs were a little more, they were still kind of finding their thing. This album sounds like a coherent thing. Like the palette is there.
It is very coherent.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, as someone coming to it like totally fresh, it took me 3 or 4 listens before I felt like it was quite repetitive to me. Yeah. Like I felt like there isn't a lot of like tempo variation in the songs. And I think a lot of like the little melody lines that he sings and that the keyboard plays are repeated from song to song. And so I have to say, my first couple of listens, I was like, oh man, this is like very repetitive. But the album is short, and I listened to it. Once I got through like maybe 5 listens, the songs really differentiated themselves for me.
Yeah,
and
they start to dig in.
I will say that it is very, I would say it's almost, in my opinion, almost too coherent and cohesive. Like there isn't enough variance, but it did start to like, I started to appreciate the differences. And I got past, I think, his singing style a little bit and more into the lyrics, and that opened the record up for me. And by the end of it, I've got to say, like I could sing along with every single song on the album now.
Yeah, super catchy. Like
very catchy.
There's hooks all over the place, and this is sort of the tightest that I think the band has sounded. Like, and I get what you're saying about there being repetitiveness to the songs, because, yeah, I mean they weren't doing prog rock here. Like it was like
that felt like a jab.
Well, no, not you know what I mean. Like it wasn't like it wasn't like they were shoving it in your face like their technical wizardry. Yeah. But in spite of that, there's just all these hooks all over the place, and the band sounds tight and coherent, and the production sounds coherent, and I think the production really showcases the band in a way that, I don't think, I mean, I don't know all the story behind Ignite the Seven Cannons, but in retrospect, it feels like Robin Guthrie's production didn't benefit the band in some way, so, and they're really good, and the lyrics are great, and Lawrence delivers, and even in his sort of half-sung, half-spoken style, there are hooks, and there are catchy bits, and
without a doubt. I mean, but like, listen, if you go in for Nick Cave, like that's really kind of the vibe here, without the storyteller gothicness of Nick Cave. But this actual singing is what I'm saying. You don't believe that?
Well, I guess Nick, I'm trying to think of
it's very Lou Reedy, I guess, but
yeah, Lou Reed for sure, Tom Verlaine for sure, definitely from that school, Dylan, So make of that what you will, but this one's more of like a Fey Wispy version of that, I mean, he does gets a little, it's like the deeper you get into it, when he's feeling more tough or aggressive or whatever. It might come off as wimpy or something to our heavy metal fans, but
which we've got some this season.
I'm sure we do. I know we do.
I love the mix. I love the mix of the records. One other thing, just like lyrically, that was a general comment from me that I wanted to bounce off you. For a band that is so decidedly like British, they mention places in the United States multiple times, and it does feel like he has this idea of the United States as like some place that like figures in his imagination.
Yeah, and I think at this point we know his imagination is huge. And so definitely these place names in the US that he peppers into the songs here and there. It just adds to the mix, of the imaginary landscapes and situations and whatever he's talking about. His lyrics are not entirely clear, or his meaning is not entirely clear at times, but sometimes it's crystal fucking clear.
Yeah.
And he interchanges that enough to keep you kind of drawn in,
Yeah. All right. So Jay William, are we ready to do a track by track here? We have really explored the feltness of felt.
Right.
But we have to get to the topic at hand. We felt. All right. So why don't we do it? Side A, it opens with, do you want to introduce these? I mean, listen.
No. No, this is your show. Come on.
I don't want to misspeak. I've already done it.
I'll let you know. Let you know.
Side A, 3 minutes and 54 seconds, opens with Reign of the Crystal Spires.
No, Reign of Crystal Spires.
No, Reign of the Crystal Spires. No. Okay. Reign of Crystal Spires. Screwed it up on the very first song. The Reign of Crystal Spires. 3 minutes and 54 seconds. Let's go. Okay, J. William Hall. Reign of Crystal Spires.
Yes.
Not the Crystal Spires. Spires.
Yeah, not Reign of the Crystal Spires or The Reign of Crystal Spires,
or The Reign of the Crystal Spires,
or any of those. It's Reign of Crystal Spires, 3 minutes and 54 seconds.
Yeah, it was. All right, so why don't you walk us through the lyrics first? So this was really my first deep dive into the world of Lawrence, and I have to say there are so many interesting things in here.
Right. Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't know what the song's about. Okay. But, it's got evocative imagery, very lyrical, poetic. It starts seven brothers on their way from Avalon.
Yeah. Now, of course, Avalon, should we get into it?
Well, sure. Yes. What is Avalon? Tell us.
Avalon is from the Arthurian legend. Avalon.
Right.
Right.
Excalibur. He's evoking a fantasy world.
Yeah. So are these
right from the
how many knights of the Round Table were there? Were there 7?
I don't remember.
You know what?
10?
I'm gonna look that up while you kind of continue. But they're on Avalon. But then in the next verse, he's talking about Idaho.
Well, before we even get there, I mean, the first thing you hear, and this is a statement. This opens the album. The first thing you hear is that organ right up front. Super catchy little riff, quick. Yeah. Establishes the mood of the song. The whole band is coming in. The drums on this song, it's just brushes on a drum, I think, for most of it.
Yeah.
If not,
yeah, I will say one quibble that I have with the mix, although it's probably because they didn't really want much in the way of drums in here, given the no cymbals and everything else. The drums are almost inaudible throughout the record. What you hear are rim shots. There are a lot of kind of rim shot heavy songs. There's some brushes, but it's the drums sit pretty far in the background.
Yeah, drums were never really like a foreground component of the Felt sound. They were minimal at times by design. But I think there are a number of moments on this album where the drums really do kind of like, there are nice moments for the drums, but Gary Ainge, his job was just to kind of like, I think, hold it steady, in the background. And I think he as evidenced by some of the later Felt stuff. And I think he plays in this offshoot, like it's the instrumental guys from Felt formed another band afterwards called Fly. And that's all like this jazzy instrumental, whatever. So he can play stuff. But I think for whatever reason on this song, they decided they were going to go like Mo Tucker. Well, just single drum,
This song really, there's that famous 13th Floor Elevators song. What is it? You're Gonna Miss Me.
Yeah.
Included on a seminal Gen X soundtrack, the High Fidelity soundtrack, I believe.
Right.
But there is this freneticness in that song, a kind of a 1960s freneticness that I think this song really, that's the vibe that I got from this. I mean, that Hammond is out front, and this is busy music. I mean, there are a lot of notes being played by the guitar, by the bass, and by the keyboard.
Yes, everybody is not everywhere on the album, but through a lot of it, like everybody's jamming.
Yeah, their fingers are flying.
Yeah, the fingers are flying.
Yeah.
I just my radar tinged because I thought there was a little undercurrent, another band that was contemporaneous with Felt that I think, at least, when this song kicks in, maybe with the drums or something, the Wooden Tops. Do you remember the Wooden Tops?
No,
are you familiar with them at all?
No.
Another British band that did not achieve much notoriety in the US, but like they were around this same time, and I think there was something with that the Bunnymen had a little bit of that in it, like that skittishness sound. What is that? What is that? Eighth notes? They hitting eighth notes?
Well, I mean, this is like they're just it's like everyone is kind of like very busily doing arpeggios of the chords, and they're like scale up, scale down, scale down, scale up.
Definitely there's a lot of interplay between the organ and the lead guitar. I mean, the lead guitar is of the Johnny Marr, Peter Buck jangle. We're doing arpeggios, we're mixing it with strumming, we're doing arpeggios again, we're going way up here, we're going way down here, we're going over here. But it's of that school, so it is busy playing. Yeah. But I think they pick their moments to pull back, but definitely when this kicks in, it's a little bit of a rush.
Yeah. Yeah. No, listen, one of the things I love about this song to open it up is this is probably the rocker of the album, right?
Well, this was a single off of the album, which they did not. Well, I think they did, but I don't know if that was unusual for them to do a promo single from the album, but this was a single at some point. But here is what I think is the first moment on this song that really, captured my attention, was when the first sort of chorus, we'll call it, kicks in, and Lawrence says, 7 brothers on their way from Avalon, 7 sisters shooting skyways for the sun. Homer's Iliad lay burning in the fire. And I was pleased just then till you said that the sun will never shine. And suddenly this wall of backing vocals comes in that just it's just hitting it's just doing the chord, but it acts as this kind of orchestral kind of thing. Yeah. And that is one of the key colors of the palette for this album. They do that in a bunch of different places. That's something that Felt does a little bit on some of their previous albums, here and there, but on this particular album, I just think it sounds great. It really is, and they're very, very pure background vocals, which is strangely dissonant with Lawrence's foreground vocals. Yeah. Does that make sense? Whoever's singing those backgrounds, they hit the note, they don't move off the note much. They hit it. It's not like they have vibrato in their voice. There's no rasp. It's just a very clean background, and then you kind of have Lawrence over it. We'll never shine, we'll never shine. Yeah, but it works.
It does work.
I think that it adds this whole element to it where it helps underpin his, because his vocals are a little atonal at times. They're not following. Yeah. I mean, they're sort of following a melody sometimes, and but half spoke, half sung. And those backing vocals are hitting those chords and just making sure that musically it all rises and falls together, but they deploy it beautifully. Yeah. So, he talks about the sun's never going to shine, and then he name checks the great state of Idaho.
That's right. Also the name of a band that we're going to be covering this season. There are so many interconnected
connections. Yes, there are many connections. He talks about a desert town to the west of Idaho. It leads to valleys shading vineyards from the snow. Beautiful image. Yeah. Beautiful image.
Yeah. But I don't know that there's a desert west of Idaho.
I don't know that there is either.
It's a geographic, conundrum we're going to have to wrestle with.
Well, I think that, when it's in the same song as you're talking about Avalon, he's talking about an imaginary.
This is the Idaho in his mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The idea of Idaho, and I think there's another Western location that's name checked that I think also is very much this place in his mind.
Yes, we'll get there. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay.
So anyway, the chorus of the song is about the sun never shining, which is a very British observation, condition. It is a very Lawrence. It is. He never sings anywhere. Rain of Crystal Spires, the Rain of Crystal Spires, Rain of the Crystal. That is completely detached from the content of the lyrics of the song. But together, I don't know, it just creates this evocative picture, I guess, this sort of imaginary landscape.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think in that second verse, we move past it, right? So this is a really traditionally structured verse, chorus, break, verse, chorus. And that he's true to that on most of the record, I think. But like the second couplet in the second verse, Messiah in the sky puts flames upon the sea. Okay. But then I love the line, I was mesmerized till you said I was positively free. And then the chorus, then he kind of changes the sun will never shine to like variants on
right.
Yes, I am free. But it's really, I love the sun will never shine combined with this I'm positively free, because it gives that I'm positively free thing a decidedly negative connotation. This is not like Freebird kind of use of the term free. This felt to me more like he was talking about maybe a girl saying to him, like breaking up with him. Like, you're free to go. But it was that kind of a free. It was like an existential dread freedom.
So I think that that's part of what's really kind of cool about the lyrics on this album is that, I've wrestled with a few of them of like, who do I think he's addressing, in this song. And the way that they're written, you really can't tell whether it's like a girlfriend or, a few times I think I was trying to read into like, oh, is he writing about Morris Deebank, and or about the band? And it's hard to tell, like who exactly he's addressing. Is he singing to himself?
Yeah.
But I will say on this one, if I had to put money on it, which I mean, you can go on the betting apps right now and you can put money on this. I'm just practicing for when we monetize backtracking, right? We have to mention product
That's
placement.
right. Yeah, exactly.
It does seem like it's a breakup song of some kind.
It sounds to me like that. That's what I took from that second verse. So, all right. Are we done with this one or should we?
Yeah, let's move on. We have more to talk about here.
Okay, you want to introduce this second track?
Sure. Track 2 on the album is called Down But Not Yet Out.
I was feeling the strain of 20 years. I was saying that this is all it is. I was seeing my blood and drip like tears. I was counting the cost of all my fears. So you wanted to be like me, to be seen. So you wanted to rise from your darkest dreams. So you wanted to be the things that I've been.
Track 2, the song is called Down But Not Yet Out.
Jay William,
Yeah.
I think that one of my favorite lines lyrically on the album is if you won't think once, then maybe think twice. It's kind of a real tag at the end of a verse here.
Yeah.
It sticks out. It's stuck in my head the whole time. It felt very kind of that like pulp kind of Brit poppy snottiness or something.
Yeah, there's a little bit of
I don't know,
snottiness
that
to
one
it, a
was-
little bit of wry kind of, depressive, like put down sort of statement. Like Lawrence definitely weaves grievances into his lyrics, like he has some really kind of classic put downs every now and again in a song.
But this is a really interesting set of lyrics given the Lawrence story that we just talked about. And this kind of like managing to evade any level of success that you would think he would have. This song, what I took from these lyrics was this is kind of him talking to like giving advice after being solicited for advice from like some young musician or something.
Yeah, that's my understanding or read of it as well, that it's definitely that perspective where somebody's come to him and is like, hey, how do I get signed? Or I have a band too. And, like, what advice can you give me about like starting out? And, I idolize you and that kind of thing. And he's basically kind of just like tired, and is basically just telling them like he says it flat out. let me tell you something. It's not what it seems. Let me give you advice. Hang on to your dreams. Like, he's basically like, don't go down the path I went down, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I thought it was just a strange set of lyrics. But again, it's kind of like a up-tempo, pretty busy, not as up-tempo as the first track. I don't know. What sticks out for you in this one musically?
Well, I think that what they pull off on this album really well at times is, the music is very jaunty and upbeat.
Yeah.
Almost, even when paired, it's got the salty sweet thing. Like, it's paired with these dark, darker lyrics or coming from a more negative place or whatever. But, this is, again, like incredible lead organ playing on this one. Just from the opening riff onward, it's like it's supportive, and it is the architecture of the whole song is this incredible organ lead. It's very ornate and very busy, but also it very supportive of just the mood of the song, I think. Yeah. And the guitar interplay with the organ
is up
really
front.
Good.
Like I just want to take a second and acknowledge, I will say it took me a while. I felt like the organ was a little circusy for my first couple of listens to the record.
Yeah, there's definitely like a carnival kind of craziness to the organ. And
it's a very 1960s kind of an approach to the Hammond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's Steve Winwood,
the Doors.
These very like, it's like the organ is playing the lead riff. It's not the guitar playing the lead riff. The organ is establishing the lead riff and the hook. Yeah, and then it pulls back when the vocals come in and sets the stage or whatever. And they do that a lot on this album, this song included. But the other thing that I think that this band does really well on this album is these little like interlude sections, like these little instrumental like little like postscripts to a chorus, or just like a transition between sections of the song where they kind of just go into this other little kind of riff off of the main thing, and then they're back into it. And they pull that off in this.
Yeah, they do. But I'm telling you, it's always that structure. It's verse, chorus, that thing. It's either a bridge or it's like a little section, and then verse, chorus. It's a really traditional kind of song structure.
Classic pop structure. I think they totally. Technically they mess with it here and there, and they don't do it exactly like that. But that's the basic idea, I think. Yeah. Yeah. But sometimes on this album, I think like instrumental sections are a bridge, it's not all singing everywhere. Yeah. But importantly, this is the first Felt album where there are lyrics and singing on every song on the album. Like instrumentals have been key to the Felt mystique, from the beginning. And they just had put out an album a few months prior that was all instrumentals. Yeah. And so then they come at you with an album that's all like fleshed out, singing traditional kind of pop structure songs. Yeah. So they were really, they started throwing some wild punches, like especially later in the catalog.
Yeah. But this is definitely, I mean, I don't know that we said this really clearly up at the top of the episode, but this is, among Felt enthusiasts, this is generally considered their masterwork.
Yeah, which is a little strange to say given that Morris Deebank wasn't in the band, because you think of him as critical to Felt as well. They kind of have two eras, and I don't think they're so stark. Well, I don't know. I don't think there's a stark division between the two eras. They definitely evolved, some ways away from that early sound, because they were sort of like arcing towards Britpop, which was pretty far away from like Crumbling the Antiseptic Beauty, the first Felt album, which feels closer to like Bauhaus or, some like goth kind of like The Cure, early Cure or Susie or whatever. So anywho.
All right, so are we ready to move on to
yes.
track
so
3?
Down but not yet out, a cautionary tale for young musicians.
Yeah. September Lady, 3 minutes and 43 seconds. Yet another song right in that 3.5-minute sweet spot. Right. Let's go.
September ladies just woke up. You better take that smile and run. September ladies not for you. You can try someone new.
Okay, so I have to ask you about what I thought was a truly upsetting lyric section in this song.
Yeah.
And I really don't know how to interpret it, but I have concerns in whatever way. So this is the lyric. I go into the pillow. Your head is underneath. There's blood on your legs. You're burning in the heat. You open wide the sheets I slip inside, and you look so beautiful. Like, that's some weird stuff, and I'm not sure what it is he's trying to describe.
Nor I, and I don't want to speculate. I will, it's part of the Lawrence story that there's definitely some imagery that makes you kind of raise an eyebrow in some of his catalog. Yes. His
like violent imagery?
Just some sexual stuff.
Oh, sexual. Some things that are sexual.
Sensual things, yes.
Sensual. It's more. It's too sensual.
Yeah,
You know what? Sometimes Prince is too sensual.
Well,
but
this
that's
is
not
true.
the vibe
This
I'm
is true.
getting from this.
I don't have the answers for you in that regard.
Okay.
If you're interested in these things, do your own research. There's a documentary. There's a book. There's
Okay.
Yes, I'm not glad you flagged that. But it is what it is.
But I mean, outside of that very disturbing lyric, it is a very Velvet Underground-y tune. I think.
Yes, I think of this as like sort of like the ballad of the album. It feels like a love ballad. It feels like this has the heavenly background vocals throughout. This has the the finger-picked guitar, very Johnny Marr, Peter Buck. The sort of fluty organ, sounds very heavenly and angelic.
Yeah.
And nostalgic and sweet,
Yeah.
This is kind of just like it comes across as this nice ballad. I mean, obviously a lot of these lyrics, I did not know most of the actual lyrics until researching this album. Like in my head, I know all the melodies and I know what I think the lyrics are, but it's like.
But so you were a little taken aback by some of the lyrics.
Well, I mean, knowing some of his later catalog songs, and it's like I'm not taken aback. I'm not surprised, I guess. But there's definitely some like not mainstream sexual kind of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah.
Shall we move on?
Okay, should we move on? All right, let's move on. The next song is Gray Streets, 3 minutes and 45 seconds. Let's go.
Gray streets, the streets of gray, patrol by nights from the invading day, and closing eyelids stutter and tremble and turn away, and makeshift memories they collide for another stay. And I was attracted to you because the forces were so blind, and you were attracted to me because my face smiled out from the wall, and you said I look kind.
Okay, so some great, another great line, another great lyric that I really liked. Patrolled by knights of the invading day. I thought was such a great, double entendre of nights there. Really cool. Like, he has some of the, like, sprinkled throughout the lyrics, there are some of these, like, really undeniably poetic and lovely lines.
Oh, yeah.
But I just wouldn't say that it's consistently like that, you know?
No. But that's definitely part of his writing style. It's got this heavy dose of, like the romantic era authors and poets, you know, of the 1800s or whatever. And, you know, he weaves that in with these very blunt, just matter-of-fact observations or statements, you know, about clearly modern life sometimes, or, you know. But yeah, very evocative. Gray streets and streets of gray.
Yeah.
You know, I think, like, such a simple way to basically set this scene of, like, it's like a city, like a gray city, you know? At least that's how I interpret it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the next line, Patrol by Night's great. Yeah. From the meeting day. Yeah.
But then the other the kind of the hook in this song is, the lyric is, my face smiled down from the wall and you said I looked kind.
Yeah.
And so, like, the way I took that line was him being, like, pulling a rock star, kind of high-roading here. Like, you know, my face was on the poster. And so, you know, this is a little John Bon Jovi, I've seen a million faces and I rocked them all.
I think this is the tale of a, you know, flirtation, romance, relationship, or something with a fan.
Yeah.
Is how I interpret this. And there's a well-known person who, like, there's another musician out there, Sarah Cracknell, who was she went on to become the lead singer of Saint Etienne.
Oh, okay.
Which was like a more of a 90s. I think they had a more of a dancey thing going on. But she dated Lawrence at some point.
Oh, wow.
In and around this period. And she met him because she was a super fan and was following Felt around the country.
Wow.
And then they dated for a bit. And so I know there's one song on the next Felt album that's, like, everybody knows this is about her. But I wonder if I don't know what the timeline is of any of this.
Yeah.
I know it's all around this same period, but I see this as, like, he's the perspective is from him towards, like, a fan, you know, like, who wants to date or whatever.
Yeah.
Get together.
Yeah. Again, it's another kind of mid to up tempo number. You know, catchy.
Yeah, well, this one has, like, a 3/4 kind of thing going on. It's got and he's doing the drum clicks. It's like, it does feel like a carnival. It's got that carnivalesque kind of feel to it, but it's very the songs move, you know, like, they get from one section to the next, like.
No, I mean, every and the whole album is like that. It's a short album. You know, we didn't really talk about this, but the album is only a hair over 31 minutes long. I mean, and apparently, from what I read, this is kind of one of his things. He liked albums to be, like, pretty short and to feel like you kind of rip through the whole thing really quickly.
Yeah, he had exacting, you know, vision, and I know he said that I saw in one interview, I think it was Ignite the Seven Cannons has 11 songs on it. Yeah. And that was the first thing that he was upset about, that album, because he wanted it to be 10 and, you know, got talked into the 11th or something, and like, that bothers him, you know, like, that's part of his, you know, I think that author, is it Will Hodgkinson?
Yeah.
He says, you know, he's not diagnosing him, but he has OCD, like, kind of tendencies and obsessions about, like, details of things, and you know, he liked his albums to be symmetrical, you know.
Yeah. Well, it definitely has this. The whole album moves pretty quickly.
Yeah, the band is really cooking on this song. Like, they sound tight and rehearsed, and, like, they know their parts, you know, like, I think the bass playing is it's a little deep in the mix, but it's really integral to this whole thing as well. Because sometimes the organ, the guitar, the lead guitar playing, and the bass playing, they lock into some really interesting textures together. But it's also subtle, just like nothing really gets out. I mean, the organ is up front, but I don't know, when you really listen hard at things, you notice these details.
It is. I'm telling you, it's busy. It's like, everyone is really the bass as well. I mean, the bass is not on every song, but it's busy. There are a couple of breaks where they take it down, but I think those mostly hit in the second half.
Yeah. One of the things that, I think reviewers at the time noted on this album was that I think especially on the second half, there are moments that feel like early Felt.
Okay.
Especially the more somber, when it gets somber mood. Because that reminds them of the early, more gothy, Morris Deebank era.
Yeah. All right. So listen, are we done with side A? Is that it for side A?
I believe it is. Yeah, it goes by in a rush.
Unbelievable. Well, you know what? This week is going to rush by because next week, side B. We got to cover side B. We got to finish off Felt. This is the first entrant, the first JW entrant into the entire pantheon of albums for the year.
That's right. So this will be immortalized forever. So for all of you Felt super fans out there, all of you future Sarah Cracknells, if you're listening to this podcast and you're just getting into Felt, I say you're welcome for introducing you to the world of Lawrence and spreading the good word.
You know what? I think that's great. All right, so listen, in the time between next week when we do side B and now, you got to go on to the Instagram and just follow us at Backtracking Rocks. If you're good, we may send you some memes. I've been digging the memes lately. So just get on there with the Backtracking Rocks. You can go on X at Backtracking Rocks. You can go on Reddit. Our username is u/Backtracking Rocks ROX. But our preferred method, the method that is easiest for us, now actively screened by our new AI producer, Riff Sterling.
I'm worried that if we adopt too much AI, people are going to think we're AI.
You can't train a computer to do what I'm doing right now, which is fucking just can't be done. We don't have the technology. We need more chips. We need more data centers, my friend.
Data centers, yeah. We got to build more.
Listen, we got to get deep into the data centers before they can replicate this kind of podcast. If you want to
find out deep details about these obscure ass albums from overseas, you're going to have to give up your water, basically, is what it comes down to.
That's right. All right, so anyway, just go to the Gmail. Just send us a Gmail.
Find us. There are many ways.
BacktrackingRocksROX@gmail.com.
Google Backtracking Pod, or say, Siri, tell me if the backtracking. She'll spit you somewhere.
Why stop there? Just do your friend a favor. You know that friend who, they love a good album. Just share this with them. Share.
Everybody
subscribe. Do all those. But until then, Jay William, thank you for shepherding us through side A.
Thank you, Dan. Thanks for coming along and for joining me in the deep dark world of Felt.
Well, we're gonna do it again next week. All right?
Greatest podcast, laughing JW Dan with this podcast every week. Backtracking is the greatest podcast. Getting ready for podcast action.